The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber swung open with a sound that echoed through the cavernous space. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked forward, her boots clicking against the polished crystal floor. Above her, thousands of lights floated like artificial stars, each one representing a world under council jurisdiction. The 12 seats of the elder species formed a semicircle around the speaking platform, elevated high enough that she had to crane her neck to see the faces looking down at her. Sarah had been on the Zephyr station for 3 months now, waiting for this moment. Earth had sent its best diplomat, someone who had negotiated peace treaties and trade deals across human space. She carried with her humanity's application for full membership in the Galactic Council, a document that had taken 5 years to prepare. It outlined human achievements, technological advances, and the desire to join the community of spacefaring civilizations as equals. High Arbiter Velshara, a towering figure whose crystalline body refracted light in dazzling patterns, raised one appendage for silence. The murmuring in the chamber stopped immediately. Sarah noticed that none of the 12 elder species were looking at her with warmth. The Valkorians, with their 6 eyes, watched her with something close to disdain. The Zarek representative, covered in scales that shifted colors with his emotions, showed patterns of dark red and purple. Even the usually neutral Metheri beings of pure energy contained in environmental suits seemed to pulse with an unwelcoming rhythm. Ambassador Chen of Earth, Velshara's voice resonated through the chamber, translated instantly by the neural implant behind Sarah's ear. The Council has reviewed your species' application for membership. We have considered your technological development, your cultural practices, and your history. Sarah felt a cold sensation in her stomach. The tone was wrong. This was supposed to be a formality, a ceremonial acceptance, after months of preliminary negotiations. But the way Velshara spoke carried the weight of judgment, not welcome. The Council has reached a unanimous decision, Velshara continued. Humanity is hereby classified as a Tier 3 subordinate species under Council jurisdiction. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Subordinate species. She had read about them in the Council archives. They were races deemed not ready for full participation in galactic affairs, restricted in what they could do, where they could go, and how they could interact with the greater galactic community. The restrictions are as follows. Velshara read from a holographic document that appeared before him. Humans are prohibited from manufacturing, possessing, or trading weapons of any class beyond personal defense tools. Human colonial expansion is restricted to your home system of Sol. Any travel beyond Sol requires Council authorization. Humans may not engage in independent interstellar commerce. All trade must be conducted through Council-approved intermediaries or under direct Council oversight. Sarah's mind raced. This was worse than rejection. This was subjugation, dressed up in legal language. She wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, to ask what possible justification they could have for these restrictions. But she remained silent, her face a careful mask of neutrality. Every diplomat learned early that showing emotion was showing weakness. The Council recognizes that this may seem harsh to your people, said Councillor Vex of the Zarek Dominion, his scales now showing satisfied orange patterns. But humanity is a young species, barely 3 centuries into space travel. Your history shows concerning patterns of violence, warfare among your own kind, and aggressive expansion. You lack the psionic abilities that mark truly civilized races. You have not proven yourselves capable of peaceful coexistence at the galactic level. Other counselors nodded or made gestures of agreement with their various appendages and body parts. They had clearly discussed this among themselves long before this session. Sarah realized with growing anger that her months of meetings and presentations had been meaningless. They had made their decision before she ever arrived. Furthermore, Velshara added, humans show a disturbing tendency toward creative problem-solving that often disregards established protocols. While innovation is valued, humanity's approach lacks the proper respect for tradition and authority that maintains galactic stability. Sarah almost laughed at that. They were punishing humanity for being too good at finding solutions. But she kept her expression neutral and spoke for the first time since the judgment began. High Arbiter, I request clarification on several points of the restriction decree. Velshara made a gesture that suggested annoyance. Proceed. What exactly constitutes a weapon under Council definition? Earth manufactures many tools that could theoretically be used as weapons but serve primarily peaceful purposes. Mining equipment, industrial fabricators, even kitchen knives could be weapons in the wrong context. The Council will determine what constitutes a weapon on a case-by-case basis. Velshara replied dismissively. I see. And regarding the commercial restrictions, does this apply to corporations registered under non-human entities? If a Valkorian company hires human workers, is that considered human commerce? Humans may work for other species as employees. That is permitted. And if humans wish to travel beyond Sol for employment purposes, is that considered colonial expansion? Employment travel will be evaluated individually. Ambassador Chen, these questions suggest you are looking for ways to circumvent the spirit of the Council's decree. I caution you against such thinking. Sarah bowed her head slightly, as if chastened. Of course, High Arbiter. I simply wish to ensure my people understand the exact boundaries of the restrictions so we may comply fully with Council law. Velshara made a sound that the translator interpreted as a dismissive grunt. The decree will be transmitted to Earth immediately. You have 1 standard year to bring all human activities into compliance. This session is adjourned. Counselors rose from their seats, their various forms moving toward the exits. Sarah stood alone on the speaking platform watching them leave. She noticed a few of the younger species representatives in the observation gallery, looking at her with sympathy. They understood. Many of them had gone through similar classifications when they first encountered the Council. The elder species maintained their power through these legal structures. Keeping younger races under their control, Sarah tapped the communicator on her wrist, opening a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Torres. This is Chen. The Council has rejected our application. Worse than that, they've classified us as subordinate. I'm uploading the full decree now. We need to convene the response committee immediately. Understood? Torres' voice came back after the slight delay of the quantum transmission. How bad is it? Sarah allowed herself a small smile now that she was alone. They've made a mistake, Admiral. They've given us a legal framework full of holes, and they've underestimated us completely. I count at least 17 major loopholes in the restrictions, and I've only done a preliminary analysis. You think we can work with this? I think they've just handed us the keys to their entire system and don't even know it. They see us as primitive upstarts who will accept their judgment and stay in our corner of space. They have no idea what humans can do when we're properly motivated. Sarah looked up at the floating lights above her, each one a world under Council control. For now. But humanity had spent its entire history finding ways around obstacles, turning limitations into opportunities and succeeding where others said success was impossible. The Galactic Council had declared humans subordinate. They were going to regret it. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stood in the cargo bay of the transport ship Meridian, checking the manifest on his datapad for the 3rd time. Around him, massive crates were being loaded by automated drones. Each container marked with corporate logos he barely recognized. The Valkorian Mining Consortium, the Zarek Industrial Group, the Methri Development Corporation. All alien companies, all technically the owners of the equipment being loaded, all employing humans to actually do the work. 6 months had passed since the Council's subordination decree. 6 months since humanity had been told to stay in its corner and behave. Marcus had been a military officer before the decree, commanding a frigate on patrol duty along the outer colonies. Now he was a logistics coordinator for a mining company. The pay was actually better, which was strange to think about. Hey Marcus, you seeing this? Called out Jensen, another former military officer now working as a cargo specialist. He pointed at one of the crates. This is a Mark VII industrial excavator. We used these on Titan to dig defensive positions during the war games last year. Marcus walked over and examined the crate's specifications. Jensen was right. The excavator was technically civilian equipment designed for mining operations, but its plasma torch could cut through reinforced armor plating. Its loading arms could lift a light tank, and its drilling mechanism was powerful enough to penetrate planetary bedrock in minutes. In military hands, it would be classified as heavy engineering support equipment, useful for building fortifications or clearing obstacles under fire, according to the manifest. It's mining equipment, Marcus said with a slight smile. Perfectly legal under the decree. Humans aren't buying it. The Velcorian Mining Consortium owns it. We're just the ones who know how to operate it. Jensen laughed. Right, and those farming implements we loaded last week. Terraforming equipment, technically. Not our fault if the atmospheric processors could also be used to make a planet unlivable. We're just following the contract terms. This was happening across human space now. Earth's government had sent out detailed guidelines to every human citizen about how to operate within the Council's restrictions while building humanity's influence. Don't buy weapons, but work for companies that need security. Don't establish colonies, but take contract positions on alien worlds. Don't engage in commerce directly, but provide essential services that make commerce possible. The legal teams back on Earth were working overtime, analyzing every council law and regulation going back centuries. They found contradictions everywhere. The council had never needed to be precise because everyone understood the unspoken rules. But humans were newcomers who kept asking annoying questions about what the written rules actually said versus what they were supposed to mean. Marcus's communicator buzzed. Webb, this is Captain Rodriguez. We've got a situation in the passenger section. Ow. Marcus made his way through the ship's corridors to the passenger deck. The Meridian wasn't just carrying cargo. It also transported human workers to their various contract positions across the sector. 300 humans on this trip alone, heading to different worlds where alien corporations had discovered that human employees were worth their weight in platinum. Captain Rodriguez met him outside the passenger lounge, a worried expression on her face. We've got a passenger who's attracting attention. Former Special Forces heading to a security consulting job on Crawl Prime, says his name is Davidson. What's the problem? Security consulting is legal, I know, but look at him. Through the lounge window, Marcus saw a mountain of a man sitting calmly, reading something on a datapad. Davidson was easily 2 meters tall, built like he could bend steel with his bare hands. He had the kind of scars and bearing that screamed military experience. He looks exactly like what he is, Marcus said quietly. And the Kralyons are going to see a human warrior walking onto their world. That's what worries me. The decree was supposed to keep us peaceful and controlled. But we're exporting thousands of people like Davidson across the galaxy as consultants and advisors. Marcus understood her concern, but he also understood the bigger picture. Captain, every species in the galaxy has security forces. The decree doesn't say humans can't know how to fight. It says we can't own weapons or act independently. Davidson isn't carrying weapons. He's an employee of a Krallian corporation that owns the weapons. He's not invading their world. He's been hired because someone on Crawl Prime decided they needed human expertise. It still feels like we're pushing boundaries. We are. That's the whole point. The strategy was working on a scale that surprised even Earth's planners. Alien corporations were discovering that humans brought unique advantages to any operation. Humans could work in environments that other species found deadly. Humans could improvise solutions when standard procedures failed. Humans had spent millennia competing against each other, developing strategies and tactics that spacefaring civilizations had never needed because they were all part of the Council's organized structure. On a dozen worlds, human engineers were solving problems that had stumped alien experts for years. Human managers were streamlining operations and increasing efficiency in ways that seemed almost magical to species, who had always done things the same way. Human security consultants were identifying vulnerabilities and threats that others had missed, and the money was flowing back to Earth in staggering amounts. Every human worker sent a portion of their salary home. Every contract included technology transfer provisions. Every position gave humans access to knowledge and connections across the galaxy. Earth was getting richer and more connected despite the subordination decree, maybe even because of it. Marcus returned to the cargo bay to supervise the final loading procedures. His datapad chimed with a message from Earth, a general bulletin sent to all humans working off-world. It was from Ambassador Chen, still stationed at the Council headquarters. To all human contractors and employees abroad, the message read, "You are the face of humanity to the galaxy. Your professionalism, competence, and integrity are building our reputation more effectively than any diplomatic speech. The Council restricted our actions but not our abilities. They tried to limit our reach but gave us access to their entire civilization through employment law. Every problem you solve, every crisis you manage, every success you achieve proves that humanity deserves a place among the stars. Keep making us proud." Marcus smiled and forwarded the message to the crew. Around him, the last of the cargo was being secured. In a few hours, they would make the jump to the crawl system, carrying equipment and people that would continue humanity's quiet infiltration of galactic society. The Council had declared humans subordinate, but they were learning that subordinate didn't mean powerless. Humans had spent their entire history finding ways to win, even when the rules were stacked against them. This was just another challenge, and humanity was facing it the same way they had always faced challenges, by refusing to quit, by finding the angles and opportunities others missed, and by turning every restriction into a loophole waiting to be exploited. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when they were properly motivated, and that lesson was going to be expensive for the Council. Captain Alina Vasquez sat in the command chair of the transport vessel, Bright Horizon. Watching the sensor displays with practiced calm, they were in neutral space, exactly halfway between the Sol system and the Xeric Dominion territories. According to the flight plan filed with the Council, they were carrying computing equipment from Earth to a Xeric technology firm that had contracted for the delivery. "Captain, we've got multiple contacts on approach vectors," announced her sensor operator. A young woman named Kim, 3 ships. Xeric, military configuration. Alina felt her stomach tighten, but kept her voice steady. "Maintain course and speed. Open a communications channel." The view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a Xeric warship. The commander was a large reptilian figure, the scales showing the deep red patterns that indicated aggression or anger among his species. Alina had learned to read Xeric emotional displays during her years as a cargo hauler. This one was looking for trouble. "Human vessel. You are ordered to cut your engines and prepare for boarding," Xeric commander announced without preamble. "Your cargo is in violation of Council regulations regarding human technology restrictions." Alina pulled up the cargo manifest on her own screen. "Commander, I'm transmitting our documentation now. The cargo belongs to the Xeric Technology Cooperative. Registration number ZTC7742. We are a contracted transport service. All paperwork has been approved by Council Customs authorities. The nature of the cargo itself is restricted. Advanced quantum computing systems are prohibited for human use under the subordination decree. With respect, Commander, humans aren't using this equipment. We're delivering it to your own species company. I'm just the pilot." The Xeric commander's scales shifted to darker shades. "Do not play word games with me, human. Your species has been exploiting loopholes in the Council's decree for months. This ends now. Cut your engines, or I will disable them for you." Alina's mind raced through her options. The Bright Horizon was unarmed, as required by the decree. She had no military backup, but she wasn't helpless. Her finger moved to a specific control on her console, one that had been installed on every human transport ship since the decree went into effect. "I'm activating my emergency beacon. Under Council Trade Law, Section 47, Paragraph 12, any interference with legally contracted commerce constitutes an act of commercial piracy. I am now broadcasting this interaction to all Council monitoring stations in range, and I'm filing a formal complaint with the Trade Authority. You dare threaten me? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm following Council law. If you board this ship and seize cargo that belongs to a legitimate Xeric corporation, you're not enforcing the subordination decree. You're committing piracy against your own species' business interests." The Xeric commander's scales flickered with what Alina recognized as confusion. He clearly hadn't expected this response. Most species, when confronted by military vessels, would simply comply. But humans had spent the last 6 months studying every council regulation, finding every protection and right that applied to them, even as subordinate species. "Stand by," the commander said. And the channel went silent, though the video feed remained active. Alina could see him conferring with someone off-screen. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple signals responding to the emergency beacon," Kim reported. "And we're getting incoming communications from several corporations." Lena switched her display to show the communication queue. Messages were flooding in from the Xeric Technology Cooperative, demanding to know why their shipment was being delayed. From the Valkorian Mining Consortium, expressing concern about similar interference with their human contractors. From a dozen other alien companies that employed humans, or did, business with human service providers, then the priority channel lit up. Ambassador Chen was calling from Council. "Headquarters, Captain Vasquez. I've been monitoring your situation," Chen said, her face appearing in a corner of Elena's screen. "We've already filed formal complaints with the Council Trade Authority and the Commerce Protection Bureau. The legal team is drafting liability claims as we speak. Every corporation that does business with humans is about to receive notification that the Xeric Dominion is interfering with contracted services." "How much liability are we talking about?" Elena asked. The Xeric Technology Cooperative alone could claim billions in delayed delivery penalties. Then there's reputational damage, breach of contract claims, and potential violations of 3 different trade protection treaties. The Dominion is about to face a legal nightmare. The Xaric commander's channel reopened, and Alina could see that his scales had shifted to pale blue, the color of distress among his species. "Human Captain, there appears to have been a misunderstanding. You are free to continue to your destination. We apologize for the delay." "Thank you, Commander. I'll note the apology in my incident report." Lena kept her voice carefully neutral, though inside she was celebrating. The Xeric warships altered course and moved away. Alina waited until they were clear before allowing herself to relax. "Kim, resume normal speed. Let's get this delivery completed." "That was incredible," Kim said, her voice filled with admiration. "You turned them away without firing a shot or breaking any rules." "That's how we're winning this," Alina replied. "The Council tried to subordinate us, but they did it using their own legal system. And their legal system is incredibly complex because it has to govern thousands of different species across millions of worlds. Every complexity is a potential tool for us to use." The incident became news across the galactic networks within hours. Human legal teams, coordinated from Earth, filed so many complaints and injunctions that the Council's bureaucratic systems started to slow down. The Xeric Dominion found itself facing liability claims from corporations across multiple sectors, all because one commander had tried to enforce the subordination decree too aggressively, back on Earth. In the Strategic Response Center, Admiral Torres reviewed the incident reports with satisfaction. "How many similar confrontations have we had?" His aide pulled up the statistics. 17 attempted interdictions in the past month. "The aliens are getting frustrated watching us spread across the galaxy through legal employment and contracts. But every time they try to stop us, we bury them in legal proceedings. And the corporations are starting to push back," Torres noted. "They're realizing that restrictions on humans hurt their own profits." Exactly. The Valkorian Mining Consortium has formally requested that the Council clarify the subordination decree because the ambiguity is disrupting their operations. 3 other major corporations have filed similar requests. They want to know exactly what they can and can't do with their human employees. Torres smiled grimly. "And any clarification will either close loopholes, which means rewriting centuries of council law, or officially acknowledge the loopholes exist, which legitimizes everything we're doing." Ambassador Chen is preparing to address the council next week. She's bringing a list of required clarifications. "How long is the list?" 3,000 pages. "Hey," Torres laughed. "They're going to hate that. But they can't ignore it without looking arbitrary and unjust. And if they try to address it point by point, they'll be arguing about legal technicalities for years while we continue expanding our presence." Across human space, the incident was being studied in strategy sessions and university courses. Captain Vasquez had done more than save her cargo. She had demonstrated that humanity's approach was working, not through force, not through threats, but through the methodical exploitation of the very laws the Council had used to try to control them. The Galactic Council had declared humans subordinate. But in doing so, they had given humanity access to every protection, every right, and every loophole that existed in Council law. And humans, having spent millennia developing legal and bureaucratic systems of their own, were proving to be very, very good at finding and exploiting those opportunities. The war wasn't being fought with weapons. It was being fought with contracts, lawyers, and carefully worded complaints. And humanity was winning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called on a cold morning by station time, though morning and night were arbitrary concepts on Zephyr Station. High Arbiter Velshara looked down at the assembled representatives with an expression that his species used to convey deep frustration. The chamber was more crowded than usual, with not just the 12 elder species present, but also representatives from dozens of major corporations and trade guilds. This council recognizes Councillor Krax of the Krallian Empire, Velshara announced. Krax rose from his seat, his forearms gesturing emphatically as he spoke. Honored members, we face a crisis that threatens the very foundation of galactic civilization. 2 years ago, we declared humanity a subordinate species to protect the established order. Today, that subordinate species has corrupted our entire economic system. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the observation section, listening carefully. She had been expecting this for months. The backlash was inevitable as humanity's influence grew, but she was curious to see how the Council would try to address the situation they had created. Humans now control or heavily influence more than 40% of galactic trade logistics. Krax continued. They have introduced financial concepts that our economists struggle to understand. Venture capital, hostile takeovers, derivative markets. These things were unknown in our civilization before humans arrived, and they are destabilizing established economic hierarchies. The humans are operating within the law, countered Councillor Vex of the Methery Collective. My species' corporations have profited enormously from human management and innovation. To expel them now would be economically catastrophic. That is precisely the problem. Krax's voice rose. We have become dependent on a species we declared subordinate. They were supposed to remain in their home system, under our guidance. Instead, they are everywhere, changing everything they touch. Chen allowed herself a small smile. This was the trap they had set, and the Council had walked right into it. Make yourselves indispensable, the strategy papers had said. Become so integrated into galactic civilization that removing you becomes impossible. Velshara called for order as the chamber erupted in arguments. The Council will hear testimony on the economic impact of potential human expulsion. Chief Economist Darren, please present your findings. A holographic display filled the center of the chamber, showing complex graphs and data streams. Darren, a Valkorian economist, began his presentation with visible reluctance. The analysis is clear. Immediate expulsion of all humans from galactic commerce would result in a market collapse affecting an estimated 7 trillion beings. Supply chains would be disrupted. Critical infrastructure on 47 worlds relies on human maintenance crews. The financial markets would enter a depression lasting an estimated 30 to 40 standard years. And a gradual reduction of human involvement? Asked one of the counselors. Still devastating, though, the timeline would be extended. The fundamental problem is that humans have made themselves essential. They occupy positions throughout the economy that cannot be easily filled by other species. Their logistics networks move goods more efficiently than any previous system. Their financial instruments, while complex, have generated enormous wealth for investors across all species. Removing them creates a void that would take decades to fill, assuming we could fill it at all. Krax slammed one of his fists on his podium. Then we are prisoners of our own decree. We declared them subordinate, and now we cannot remove them without destroying ourselves. Chen decided this was her moment. She stood and requested permission to address the Council. Velshara looked like he wanted to refuse, but protocol demanded he allow it. The council recognizes Ambassador Chen. Thank you, High Arbiter. I have listened to this discussion with great interest. The council faces a difficult situation, one that I believe has a simple solution. She pulled up her own holographic display. Humanity requests reclassification from Tier 3 subordinate status to Tier 1 full member status. The chamber fell silent. Chen continued before anyone could interrupt. We have met every technical requirement for full membership. We have established peaceful relations with other species. We have demonstrated technological innovation. We have contributed substantially to galactic prosperity. The only reason we were classified as subordinate was fear and prejudice. You lack psionic abilities, Velshara said coldly. This is a fundamental requirement for Tier 1 classification. Is it, though? Chen gestured, and a human woman walked onto the speaking floor. This is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, neuroscientist and engineer. Doctor, would you demonstrate? Dr. Okonkwo placed a small device on her head, a sleek band of metal and circuitry. She approached a psionic interface panel, the kind used throughout the station for various controls. Her hand moved near it, and the panel responded, lighting up and executing commands exactly as it would for a naturally psionic species. This is the neural interface bridge, Chen explained. It allows non-psionic beings to interact with psionic technology. We've solved. The problem, you said, was unsolvable. Any species can now access psionic systems with this technology. Several counselors were leaning forward with obvious interest. Is this device for sale? One of them asked. We're prepared to discuss licensing agreements with any interested parties, Chen replied smoothly. But I think it demonstrates that humanity meets all criteria for Tier 1 classification. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for equal status based on equal achievement. Krax was practically vibrating with anger. This is manipulation. They've engineered this entire situation to force our hand. First, they make themselves indispensable. Now they demand equal status or implicitly threaten economic collapse. We've threatened nothing, Chen said calmly. We've simply operated within the legal framework you provided. If that framework produced results you didn't anticipate, perhaps the framework was flawed to begin with. The debate continued for hours. Chen presented evidence of human achievements across every sector. Trade representatives from various corporations testified about the value humans brought to their operations. The economists projected scenarios showing the long-term benefits of human integration versus the costs of continued restriction or expulsion. Finally, Velshara called for a vote on humanity's reclassification. The results appeared on the displays: 6 in favor, 5 opposed, 1 abstention. By council law, Velshara announced, a split vote maintains the current status. Humanity remains classified as Tier 3 subordinate. Chen had expected this. She bowed respectfully. Thank you for your consideration, High Arbiter. Humanity respects the Council's decision. She paused, then added casually, as a matter of information. Earth will be establishing a free trade zone in the Sol system, open to any species interested in conducting commerce under human law rather than Council regulations. No species restrictions, no subordination classifications, just open markets. The implications rippled through the chamber immediately. If humanity created an alternative to Council-regulated space, others might join. Younger species tired of elder dominance. Corporations seeking fewer restrictions. Traders looking for better opportunities. Velshara stood abruptly. This session is recessed. We will reconvene in 3 days. Those 3 days saw frantic negotiations behind closed doors. Chen met with individual counselors, with corporate representatives, with trade guild leaders. Everyone understood what was at stake. Humanity wasn't threatening violence or rebellion. They were offering an alternative, and they had the economic power to make it work. When the council reconvened, Velshara looked like he had aged years in 3 days. The council announces a compromise. Humanity will be reclassified as Tier 2 provisional members, with a pathway to full Tier 1 status. Restrictions will be gradually lifted over a 10-year period, with regular reviews, to ensure compliance with Council standards. Chen accepted graciously, though she knew the reviews were meaningless. In 10 years, Humanity would be so deeply integrated into galactic civilization that full membership would be automatic. They had one as she left the chamber. She thought about the journey. 2 years ago, the Council had tried to put humanity in a box. They had failed because they didn't understand what they were dealing with. Humans had spent their entire history breaking out of boxes, finding ways around obstacles, and turning limitations into opportunities. The galaxy was learning that. It's a lesson now, and it was a lesson they would never forget. 5 years after the reclassification, Ambassador Chen walked through the corridors of Zephyr Station with a confidence that had become second nature. The station had changed in visible ways since she first arrived. Human-designed shops lined the commercial districts. Restaurants serving food from Earth had become popular gathering places. Even the station's communication systems now used protocols developed by human engineers, because they were simply more efficient than what had existed before. She was heading to a routine check-in meeting. One of the reviews mandated by the Tier 2 provisional status. These meetings happened every 6 months, and they had become increasingly friendly as the Council representatives realized that humanity wasn't going to cause the disasters they had feared. In fact, quite the opposite had occurred. The meeting room was smaller than the Grand Council chamber, more intimate. 3 representatives sat waiting for her, not the full council, but enough to make any official determinations about humanity's progress. Councillor Vex of the Metheri represented the Perhuman faction. Councillor Thex of the Zarek represented the skeptics. High Arbiter Velshara himself attended, which was unusual for these routine reviews. Ambassador Chen, please be seated, Velshara said, gesturing to a chair that had been designed to human specifications. Even that small detail showed how much had changed. 5 years ago, she had stood before the council while they sat in judgment. Now they met as something approaching equals. Thank you, High Arbiter. I have the standard progress reports prepared. Chen pulled up holographic displays showing human activities across the galaxy. The data was impressive. She knew it. Human population in galactic space had grown to over 50 million, spread across hundreds of worlds. Some were still contract workers, but increasingly humans were starting their own businesses, forming partnerships with other species, and establishing permanent communities. Earth's economy had grown by 400% in 5 years, driven by trade and technology exchange with alien civilizations. Your species has been busy, Vex observed, his scales showing colors that Chen had learned to read as grudging respect. The Zarek Dominion now has 70,000 humans working in various capacities. My own son employs a human as his chief of staff. How is young Krex doing? Chen asked politely. She made it a point to remember personal details about the counselors. He is well. His human employee, Marcus Webb, has proven invaluable. Apparently, Webb was a military officer before the decree. X's scales showed amusement. Now he advises my son on security matters and has reorganized the entire household staff for improved efficiency. My son swears he could not function without him. Humans do seem to have a talent for organization, Vex commented. The Metheri Energy Collective has integrated human management practices throughout our operations. Productivity has increased 47%. Velshara listened to this exchange, his crystalline features unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Ambassador Chen, when we declared humanity subordinate 5 years ago, we believed we were protecting galactic civilization from a potentially dangerous species. We thought we were containing a threat. Yes, High Arbiter. I remember the reasoning. We were wrong. The admission seemed to cause Velshara physical pain. Not about humanity's potential for danger. You are indeed a dangerous species. But we were wrong about the nature of that danger and how to address it. Chen remained silent, letting him continue. We tried to contain you through legal restrictions. Instead, you used those very restrictions as tools to integrate yourselves into every aspect of galactic society. We tried to keep you subordinate, and you made yourselves indispensable. We tried to limit your influence, and you became more influential than species who have been council members for millennia. We followed the rules, High Arbiter. You did meticulously, creatively, in ways we never anticipated. Velshara's body refracted light in patterns Chen had learned meant resignation. The Council has reviewed humanity's status. The verdict is unanimous this time. Humanity is hereby granted full Tier 1 membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The provisional period is ended early. All restrictions are lifted. Chen felt a wave of emotion that she carefully kept from her face. This was the goal Earth had worked toward for 7 years. Full membership. Equal status. Recognition as a spacefaring civilization deserving respect. Thank you, High Arbiter. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I accept. There is one condition, Nex added. The Council requests that Earth share its expertise in legal framework analysis and economic innovation with other member species. Many younger races are interested in learning human methods. Jen smiled. We would be honored to establish educational and cultural exchange programs. In fact, Earth has been hoping for opportunities to teach and learn from our galactic neighbors. The meeting continued with logistical details about the transition to full membership. Human representatives would now sit on council committees. Human worlds could join trade alliances without restrictions. Human ships could travel anywhere in council space without special authorization. All the limitations that,